you're on.
Okay, here we go. It is November 25th, 2025, and it is 6:02, and I'm calling the Select Board meeting to order. And we have as our annual guest, the Board of Assessors. Would you like to call your meeting to order?
Yes, I'd like to call our assessors meeting to order.
Okay,
I'll second.
all righty. I move that the Select Board open the public classification hearing to discuss the allocation of the local property tax levy among the property classes for FY 2026.
Dan Campbell seconds that.
Okay, motion and a second. All those in favor, we're going to do a roll call. Dan?
Dan Campbell says yes.
David says yes. Barney says yes.
And B says yes. Okay, so assessors, you're going to talk about, it's always helpful to explain why the two boards get together every year. You actually are responsible for the property taxes, but the Select Board has a unique role in terms of the classification, so that's why we're all together.
Yes.
Do you want to give us an overview, that wonderful annual overview that you give us about why we're doing this? And
Of course.
great.
B, did you need to read
Oh,
that?
I'm
You didn't get
sorry.
any,
This on the back here.
do you need to read that? And that was just the
notice.
posting.
You have to read the notice?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hearing notice.
Yes.
On the back
Sorry, I
of
was
the
looking
copy.
at the other piece of paper. Okay, the Select Board, in conjunction with members of the Board of Assessors, are holding a joint public hearing on Tuesday, November 25th, 2025 at 6 p.m. at Town Hall, 69 Main Street, Northfield, Mass., to determine the percentages of tax levy to be borne by each class of real and personal property for fiscal year 2026, per Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 56, as amended. Northfield residents are welcome to attend this hearing and to present any oral or written comments on the matter. In the event a taxpayer is unable to attend, written comments may be submitted in advance to the Select Board office in the Town Hall. So that was posted, and there have been no written letters regarding this hearing, and there are presumably no comments from the audience for or against. So why don't we discuss it, and then I'll read the rest of that, and then we'll move on to the motion. Okay.
Okay, so in that little packet that we put together, the first page has just a bunch of terminology. So you'll hear these words a lot throughout the course of the hearing, and also just in general with anything to do with a financial aspect for the town. So you hear levy, levy ceiling, new growth revenue, levy limit, excess levy capacity, the different classes, which we have residential, commercial, industrial, and personal property. So to take those terms and put it into Northfield math, so the fiscal year 2025 levy limit, so last fiscal year's levy limit was $10,730,393. Under Proposition 2.5, we're allowed to increase it by that 2.5%, which is 268,260. And we also can add in our new growth revenue. So new growth is any new houses, if anything should change. If we have chapter land that comes out of chapter land, we can use that as new growth, any new businesses. So we had a growth revenue of $161,878. So our total maximum allowable levy is $11,160,531. At the May town meeting, the amount that was voted on by the taxpayers, the amount to be raised was $9,648,428.22. So the difference between the maximum allowable levy and then what the town voted on is $1,512,102.78. That's the excess levy capacity. So that's the amount in between that we could actually essentially tax up to. We're not.
No, we're not. And For towns that need to exceed that, is that where they get into the Prop 2.5 override
Or debt exclusion.
or debt exclusion? Okay.
So the purpose of the tax classification, it allows communities to have a separate tax rate for the different classes. So again, the residential, commercial, industrial, and personal property. What it does is if the board should decide to do a shift tax rate, it lessens the burden on the residential, and then the commercial, industrial, and personal property would then have a higher tax rate. It doesn't change the levy, so the levy always stays the same, it just changes the burden. Municipalities with large commercial base, industrial base tend to have a shift in the tax rate, but historically, Northfield's always been a single tax rate. The assessors continue to recommend a single tax rate. Just to put something into perspective, we have about 101 accounts that fall into the commercial, industrial, and personal property. 13 of those accounts have nothing to do with Northfield. They're businesses owned by entities outside of Northfield. So everybody else, it's either, you've got your MIMS, your IGA,
Your small businesses.
your small businesses.
Yeah.
And you have our second homes. So yes, we do have second homes, but think of the Ridge, the little seasonal cabins. They're not these monstrosity houses where you would gain an increase, a huge fund of tax revenue from them. So that's why we still continue to recommend a single rate. If you were to split it, all the chapter land properties also fall under the commercial. So think of all your farmers, the people who are trying to
Put their land in conservation?
Yeah,
That
those
falls
would-
under commercial?
it does.
Okay,
Yep.
I learn something new every year.
So the next worksheet I have, this is the what if scenario worksheet. It's a lot of numbers, it looks very confusing, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But what this does is the system that we use for DOR, we plug in our levy and it pulls the percentage of class. So in the upper left corner, you'll see where residential makes up 61.8263% of the levy. Commercial is 3.4, industrial is 12, and personal property is 22%. So again, residential is significantly higher. So if you look at the worksheet, the very first line that runs all the way across, that is if there's no split. It's a single tax rate. So the levy is, the percentages stay the same. We're not voting on a tax rate tonight, just to make sure. You're just voting on whether or not to split it or to keep it single tax rate. This particular worksheet is projecting a 13.28 tax rate. That would be across the board. The next shift, if you would decide to do a shift, the next shift down would be $13.18. So it's the very last four columns where it says RES, residential estimated tax, commercial estimated tax. It would shift down. So the residents could have a $13.18 tax rate. Commercial, industrial, personal property would see a $13.45, and so on and so on. It decreases for residential and increases for the commercial, industrial, personal property.
Just so we can see what the impact
Yeah.
would be.
Yeah.
So the current estimated at the top level there is, the current estimated tax rate is $13.28?
Yes, which would be a 56-cent decrease from last year's tax rate.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
Okay, we're actually going down.
So
Okay.
with that being said,
And we're not talking valuations, we're just talking the tax rate
the
itself.
tax rate.
Okay.
But I will just touch upon that the values of houses did go up. They did go up about 7%. So the average single-family house, and I'm going to use the average single-family because they make up the majority of the town. We have over 1,000 parcels that are just single-family. So the average single-family home is valued at $341,633. It's going to be an approximate increase on average of $123 higher than last year's tax bill.
And you said it was 7%?
About 7%,
Okay.
yep.
Are you done with the valuations?
Yeah, so everything's
Okay.
been submitted. the financial team, we've all been working hard all throughout the year to submit documents to the state. Things have been approved. Just before we could have the hearing, we had to submit our values, and they were approved. There was no issues, so it went really smoothly, I will say, and quick, and we're here.
Like clockwork. Dan, do you have questions?
So, yeah, I was gonna, just so the people that are watching understand that evaluation goes up every single year or down yearly, depending on what the
Valuations are based on the market.
on the market as
Yep.
far as doing that. So, but every, 3 years you have a total valuation that goes
Every
through?
5 years.
Every
It
5
used to be
years.
3 years, but now
Okay.
the state does every 5 years.
Okay,
It's
'cause
a
some
total
people
revaluation.
Think that everything is locked in for that 5 years and nothing gets evaluated,
No,
so-
because the state has us do an interim adjustment every year, so
Okay.
we have to check it every year.
So your values either go up or down every year, and your taxes based on the evaluation of
Based on the-
of the whole town's
Yep.
value.
So what really drives the tax rate is what gets voted on at town meeting for your budget, and then you have your values, and that just mathematically, one gets divided into the other, and that's how you get your tax rate. So-
Right, and I think this is a good time to remind people too that when we vote on the budget at the Springtown meeting, we're using an estimated tax
Yes.
rate. And this is
Yes.
the time of year where everything gets locked down, so to speak. So now we always estimate a little bit higher, right?
If you
So,
look at your numbers, I think the estimated tax rate was like $16, but it's always that way because we
Because you don't
estimate the
know.
revenues
Yep.
low
Yep.
and full expenditures. So when the revenues come in, because we've estimated low, inevitably that drops the estimated and then ultimately the final tax rate.
Yeah.
But we always want to play it safe and see what would be the impact if something happened and our revenues didn't come in. We always want to be conservative with our revenues. You don't want to overestimate your revenues. That's a very upside down place to be in. The Department of Revenue does not like to see that. So we have to be very careful with our revenues. Plus, we also estimate new growth.
Yep, we don't
We're
know
very
new growth
conservative.
at that time either.
I mean, we
so-
sometimes estimate 30, 40,000. This year was 160. So there's 120,000 new growth that we didn't capture
Yeah.
because we don't know what someone's going to do. We don't know if a home is going to be built. We don't know if someone's going to put on a
Yeah.
garage. So we have to be very careful with our revenue estimates. The only revenue estimates we have usually, we know our stabilization accounts. We
Mhm.
know our free cash numbers. We know generally what the state's going to give us in unrestricted general government aid because we usually have at least the governor's estimate and then either the House or the Senate before they reconcile. So those are sometimes estimates, but they're close. But the other ones that we have to estimate local receipts. That's what people pay for garbage bags and everything else you pay to the town, or excise taxes.
Excise tax is a big
We
one,
have to
yeah.
estimate all that, so we're very conservative in estimating that. That's why the tax rate that you see estimated at town meeting will never match the tax rate that's ultimately set. The one that's ultimately set is always lower.
as it should be.
Because all the numbers are finalized and
Finalized.
approved,
Right.
so.
Right,
And then I'll put these numbers in, so next year we'll see 2026, the correct column, and 2027 estimates for
Yep.
those
Okay.
numbers again.
okay. Any other questions
So
or
that,
comments?
yeah.
Do you see as the rates might fluctuate, but the bills essentially go up year after year, do you see more citizens argue their
So-
rates?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I mean, people obviously question it. And again, a lot of times what I have to tell people is the market is what drives values. So if I always want people to feel if they ever have a question on their property, come in, we'll print off a card, we'll go over it. You know, it doesn't hurt my feelings if it's wrong, like we need to get it corrected. But I need to know, I want people to come in. But because it's derived on market value, houses are still selling well above, people were said the values were really high in fiscal '24, and houses are selling at this point 200,000 above that value. So it keeps going up.
And the state won't let you artificially lower your values.
No, we
They-
have to be within that frame that they want us around 95 to 100% of fair market value. So we stay at 95. We stay at the lower aspect of it, and
So you
It's still-
basically get audited
Oh, absolutely. They
Yeah.
won't approve our values
Right.
if they're not exactly where they need to be.
Right.
Like, and it's all reports. It's nothing.
So you can't do them artificially high or artificially low.
No.
You do them professionally, obviously, and you have somebody come in to help with the
And
valuations.
they actually, like, now they are like they watch the market too, like to make sure like the sales are actually coded right, and you know, if they want all those sales, we can't do anything off from it, so there's no fluffing. No.
Just for folks who don't understand all the
So
intricacies with
but I
the
will
state.
add to your effect about the taxes keep going up, especially the people that don't do any renovations to their house, and their values keep going up, and I know that's frustrating. But we do have available for seniors 65 and older, there is an exemption. It is based on income and assets. And we also have a veteran exemption too, for veterans with a 10% service-connected disability or more. So there are things. The senior center also started the senior work-off program. So there are options.
So people should feel free to come in and talk
Absolutely.
to you about their bill and if any of these apply to them.
Absolutely.
Okay. And it just can't hurt to just review the card and see how.
Because sometimes someone took down a garage and
Oh, that happened to me.
they're
I
getting
took out a
taxed on
pool.
it, and
Yeah.
they don't tell anybody, and then that's how they'll come in and ask why their value's too high, and I might say, oh well, you have a garage, a shed, a pool. Well, I don't have that garage anymore, so it's things like that
Okay.
we can work with.
Okay. Any other questions?
No?
Do you have any questions or any other comments that you'd like to put forth from the assessors? Okay. Well, seeing that there have been no written letters regarding this hearing and there are no comments from the audience, I'm assuming, from our guest, anything
And
else?
before you leave, what are your hours, so people, while we're mentioning, they can come in, just mention your hours while
Sure.
we're.
Sure.
So I'm here Monday through Thursday, 9 to 3.
Okay,
I'm not here tomorrow, but
yeah.
normally Monday through Thursday.
And do you set up appointments too, like Michelle and?
I can, absolutely. So if someone doesn't get out of work until 5, or
Yeah.
whatever the case may be, if
Okay.
they need to see me,
Okay.
just call me or email me, and
Yeah.
we can set something up.
Just
Absolutely.
wanted to mention that while
Yeah.
we're on camera.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you, thank you.
And you have a webpage too that
I
outlines
do.
that with your phone number too?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So seeing that there have been no written letters regarding this hearing and there are no comments from the audience for or against having a single rate, the excess levy capacity is $1,512,102.78. So I need a motion.
I move that the select board adopt a uniform tax rate, otherwise known as a single tax rate for all classifications for the fiscal year 2026.
I second that.
Okay, and we're going to, any discussion? Seeing none. We'll vote. Dan, let's start with you.
Dan Campbell said yes.
David says yes?
Bernie says yes.
He says yes. Okay, thank you. And I move to close the public hearing then.
Second?
Second from Bernie.
No, because we go downstairs.
Who second? Oh.
You second.
Bernie did?
Bernie second.
Yeah, Bernie got it. Okay, and we're gonna have a little contest tonight on motions and seconds.
Dan Campbell says yes.
David says yes?
Bernie says yes.
B says yes.
Okay, and we're actually staying in session because we have to go downstairs now and submit our documents.
Okay,
And so
so
we'll adjourn downstairs. All
we're closing the
Thank you
hearing
for
at
coming.
6:21.
right, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you guys.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving too.
Yes.
Thanks for that good explanation. Okay, oops. We're gonna move on with our regular agenda, review and approval of warrants. Can I get a motion to approve the November 12th, 2025 payroll warrant of $101,531.12?
So moved.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And can I get a motion to approve the November 12th, 2025 vendor warrant of $1,134,212.54, including the assessor appraisal service the PVRS assessment, which I think was just under $1 million, so that's the bulk of it. Highway paving, health insurance, the Mass Works grant went through for Highland Ave, and that's about it.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And can I get a motion to approve the November 25th, 2025 payroll warrant of $93,990.64?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And can I get a motion to approve the November 25th, 2025 vendor warrant of $315,851.09, including the Northfield Elementary School awning, which looks fantastic, by the way. Complete streets for the Highland sidewalks.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
Okay.
Rolling right along, can I get a motion to approve the October 28th, 2025 executive session minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
Abstain.
you. Oh, you're abstaining. Oh, that's right.
You weren't there.
David, he
I
wasn't.
am.
Thanks, David. We missed you. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes, the regular session minutes from November 10th, 2025?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, done on that. Okay, Fall Town Meeting review and follow-up on discussion and results. Who wants to start?
I can give you a rundown of what's happened with some of the articles, just the business sense.
Oh, great,
No,
let's
that'd
do
be-
that.
Yeah, let's do, yes, please.
So Article 1, Matt already submitted the bill for payment. I think he might have actually already paid it today.
Yep.
Article 2, the funds have been moved into the emergency service building account, so those are all set. The Article 3 capital stabilization account has been created, so that's now on the schedule.
Oh, great.
Article 4, Sandry has been notified of the approval. They have the draft purchase and sale agreement to work on and return, and we're still hoping to close in January, but we don't have it back, so we will not need the executive session tonight.
Okay.
Article 5, the homeowners have the draft donation agreement, are reviewing it with their attorney. Once they sign it, we'll have to hold a meeting to execute, but you'd want to do that probably after the closing on 41 Main, because there's no point in accepting one without the other. So I'll contact the company at that point about the removal of the materials, and then hopefully, so by January, we'll have everything buttoned up for these two properties.
Great.
Article 6, the attorney is aware of the vote for the properties and is working on the paperwork to be signed for moving forward with Article 97 designation. Article 7, the library is running the project with our building maintenance with Michael. So they'll be starting to move on their project for the mini splits. Article 8, that's the flags. I'm not sure where it stands yet. They may not have gone ahead and done anything yet. It's only been a week, so.
Well,
I
I
don't know
don't
if they've
think they're
ordered
going to go in until the spring anyway.
Right, so I don't think they've probably ordered anything because they don't want to say.
However, I have been checking into some different things.
Good. I want to have a, let's go through the others and then let's
Okay.
circle
Yeah.
back
Okay.
because I have some thoughts about that as well.
Article 9 was a transfer by the accountant, so that's all set. 10 through 13, obviously, they'll be managed by the sewer department as those bills and projects move forward and they purchase that equipment. And Article 14 was just set up by the accountant as part of the revolving funds, so everything's moving along. just
Okay.
fine.
As far as the flag goes, we're actually looking in to see if you can do it up and down remotely.
You know, I was wondering about that.
Oh, you can. Right now, it looked like 17 grand, but that's for the whole thing. So if you're just retrofitting, we're trying to figure out what it's gonna cost to do that.
Okay.
So,
Who's we? Are you working with the flag?
town
committee?
clerk.
Oh, okay.
No, because when it came up, someone was talking, too bad we couldn't do this remotely. And
I
so,
would have thought that would have been invented by now, so
oh, it
that's
is,
good.
it is.
Oh,
It's
okay.
out there. So Amanda and I are looking into that just for our own benefit at the moment. And any information we find, we will pass it on to the flag committee.
Okay, great. I just wanted to say that I was a little concerned about the discussion that if we have the Veterans Memorial, and I think as we're certainly going to support putting up the flags, and we had, I think both the Finance Committee and the Select Board had some questions that weren't answered. And then it seemed to generate a discussion that we somehow weren't supporting veterans. And I just want to make it clear that I don't think that that's the case. And while I personally am not a veteran, I come from a long line of veterans. My dad was in Korea, my uncle was in Vietnam, my grandfather and his brothers were in World War II, and I can trace back to the Civil War. So I just was a little concerned that a discussion, it seems like, especially when it comes to the flag, we should actually be able to have questions and have a discussion about aspects of putting in more flags, and that kind of got lost in the shuffle, and I'm really sorry and sad about that. Seemed, especially because we have been talking about the flag. We had like 2 or 3 meetings on it. We set up the flag committee. I know Sarah's been passionate about it. I've worked with them. I actually put the warrant article together, so I just wanted to clarify my concern and sadness and disappointment with some of the discussion that we somehow were not supporting veterans. That wasn't the intent of abstaining. It was because we were looking for more details that hadn't yet been worked out, even though they were documented.
So I can actually speak a little bit to the finance committee. The finance committee was, again, we're not against it, but we wanted more clarification. We wanted to know.
Because I had
Because we'd only seen like one bid or one proposal for it. And I'm sure that with a little bit more time, and we do have more time, and I'm sure that people are going to check it out and looking also to see if people wanted to donate too. So we were wanted more clarification on what it was, not the fact of the flag at all, but we wanted to see more than one option.
Yeah, and I had put those things in there based on the first flag committee meeting that I went to. I had put all of those points into the warrant request, and that included comments from the committee about pursuing donations. So that's why the question about donation came up, was because it was from the first flag committee meeting.
Yeah.
And so I had put that into the warrant article, knowing the finance committee would want to see what was still under discussion with the flag committee.
Yeah, it was never not going to pass. It was
No, I
it was
know.
going to pass. We just wanted to make sure that everything was done correctly, and we had more than 1 or 2 options as far as to be able to look at. Like I said, thinking about being able to remote access and that sort of thing. That kind of came up at the tail end. So, I mean, that sort of stuff, we're going to kind of pursue it, see if it can be
Okay.
done.
Can
And
you,
again, we're kind of doing it because I was hearing.
because you've been doing
at
the
the-
flag on the front of the building,
I
right?
put it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would put it in, take it out. If it got really bad weather, I'd bring it in because I didn't want it out there in the rain. We were looking at possibly putting, if nothing happened, a solar light on what we had there, but it is actually lit from across the street. It's a light that lights up the whole front of the building. So technically, we are covered with that. But just because we have some time, Amanda and I are kind of looking at that. But we're going to, anything we find, we'll give over to the flag committee.
Okay, I appreciate that. One question I had that was still open as well, I think I mentioned at the town meeting, and I've certainly mentioned to the flag committee members as well, is we needed to circle back to the library. The library was, Misha, I think, was at our January or February meeting of last year, almost a year ago. And we haven't, the flag committee has not circled back to the library. So I'd like to make sure that, I think as long as we have the money, that the library trustees should be able to go ahead and order and have it installed when and where they would like for it to be installed.
I think they should have a decision on that.
Right. I just wanted to double check that with you guys before, I don't want to have the flag committee worried about all of the different maneuvers. And the other thing is I want to make sure the library trustees feel like, okay, now we can make a decision. Because I was looking at the front of the building, and they've got like 2 small trees in there as well. They've done some planting over the years, so I don't know where the original flagpole was, but I just wanted to, I know that they like their landscaping and they've tried to keep the front looking nice. So I just want to make sure that it's okay with you guys that we can shift that responsibility over to the library.
There was one other thing that was brought to my attention. We were talking with veterans and that. The existing flag that was at the library had a plaque there of some kind. And nobody knows anything about that. But there was supposedly a plaque, I don't know if it commemorated, but I think it went back to 1942, 43, that era.
Oh,
So,
okay. So you think it's somewhere like,
well, I don't know exactly what it is or where it is, but what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to check old town records, town meeting records, that if there's anything mentioned about flags going up at the library, or if there's some type of dedication, it may be in the town meetings sometimes. I can find a lot of
okay.
information on that. I'll double check that
Okay.
within the next couple of weeks, but it was brought to my attention that there was a plaque there of some kind. And
Okay.
where it is, we're not 100% sure, I guess. Or it could be on one building that we don't realize where it went.
or it could be in the history room for all we know.
It
but-
could be. It could be.
That was the other thing I was going to suggest, if it would be helpful, I'd be happy to talk with Sandy Campbell, who's the chair of I'm the vice chair now, and would be happy to make sure we have somebody from the Historical Commission. And I know Misha's involved with the Historical Society,
yeah.
so I'm thinking between town clerk, Historical Commission, and Historical Society, we should be able to uncover more details. I think there was also discussion with the flag committee about getting the old picture of where the flag was with the Belcher
We can
fountain.
maybe look through that.
Yeah,
Oh, I mean out here in front of this.
yeah,
I think I have a picture of it going back. We'll have to see. It might even be before. No, it wouldn't be, because it'd have to be 1928 or so, when the building was. I'll look at some pictures I have.
okay,
And just make sure when they do dig, they do the dig safe, do everything right.
yeah, well, we'll work with
There's a lot of
Tom
stuff
on that,
around.
yeah.
Yeah, Isaac and Tom,
Yeah.
between the two of them.
Yep, for sure.
And the water department will know where the water pipes come in. and
Well,
that
I
too.
actually walked the property with Tom, and we looked at there's the water manhole, or whatever you call it, right next to the Belcher fountain. So I did walk it back in the spring with Tom. So we'll do that. We'll make sure to double check with Isaac at sewer and the highway before anybody
Yeah.
does any digging.
I'd like to go back a second about, was it 39 Main Street, and tearing it down. So if we get everything done by January, are we anticipating that our DPW might go in February?
Right, I have to get the abaters in.
Okay.
So I don't want to schedule that until we know we have the property. As soon as we do that, I'm hoping
Okay.
that they'll be able to come in and do that. And then, yeah, and they'll have all winter season, February, March,
Well, you
even
also
April,
have.
before they can do much road work.
Yeah, I was concerned
Between
with road
storms.
work, yeah.
That they could then do that and clear the property. And
Okay.
that's the hope.
Great.
Answered
Anything
all my
else?
questions.
I mean, also, I just want to say a big congratulations and thanks on getting the EMS building proposal. That was complex, those 2 articles. I know it was hard to kind of understand, and we were working many months on that. So it was a little nerve-wracking as well, to be honest with you. I was just surprised that there were no questions.
I think that the people saw it as, wow, this is a win-win situation. I hope they thought it was.
Yeah, that's what, I mean, you never
And-
know until you get to town meeting, so it was a nice surprise.
Well, you don't know until you decide what you're gonna put up for a building.
Well, that's true, but I think what it did is when
That's
they took
Yeah.
these non-conforming piece of property and made it conforming property, that just made
Yeah.
it that much easier to get to the goal we're looking for. So I think that was, and especially when you had people who went through a tragedy and basically gave up their rights for that property to
Right.
the town of Northfield. So, I mean, yeah.
That was a tough decision. I know they wanted to stay in
So.
Northfield, so.
I have asked the lawyer to look into what we need to do to combine those properties too.
Okay.
I'm sure it's a planning board new map situation that we have
Okay.
to file.
So we'll just keep that update on the agenda as needed. And then just FYI, the building committee is meeting on December 3rd to determine next steps for EMS as well as for fire. Okay, anything else on the town meeting? By the way, it was 65 minutes.
I won.
You won?
Yeah,
Did you
because
have a bet?
everybody said it was going to be over 2 hours, so.
I said it was going to be 90 minutes.
uh,
And I think Nate said it was going to be 75, and we both lost.
Again,
What
that-
did you say? Did you say 65?
No, I said under 2. Under 2 hours.
Yeah.
Nate's closer.
Out of all those, I think Nate wins. Okay, that was good.
Yeah.
And thanks to Jeff Blake for coming out. It's always helpful having him there just in case questions come
Well,
up.
it's also helpful for him to follow because he then is the lawyer we work with on much of this. So for him
Right.
to be there and see and the
And here,
discussion
yeah,
and hear what the intended purposes
Right.
are, and he's a little bit more up to date.
yeah. Okay, let's move on. How about goals?
So you guys have 3 sheets in front of you actually, but the first 2 organization-wide strategic goals.
Yeah,
That
let's
is
take a
the
look
sheet
at
that
those.
I use in the annual report, and that's sort of the big look for town-wide goals.
Right, and it's in the budget book every
Right,
year.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, you've all had it. And then the second section, which is the governance section, that's really kind of become, technically the select board chair's report that used to get written by the chair, and it goes over the year's accomplishments and then reviews the goals set for last year and adds new ones for the next year.
Mm-hmm.
So B will also write part of this, looking at what happened this year and some of this stuff, but I think she wants you to look at it and I'll set the goals for the
Well, I
governance.
just want to make sure, the one thing I've noticed is, I think in prior years, like when we first started, we would always do the goals and objectives, like really early in the year. And then we would kind of get into the financial planning part of the year and not really have them side by side. So I thought it would, especially when we've had goals that have been on the list for quite a while, because the buildings have been year over year, right? We've had the same priority for buildings over the, every year, that I just wanted to bring these back in front of us closer to the financial budgeting process so that we can keep the priorities aligned with what we're looking at from a budget standpoint, especially this year, because the budget process is going to be much more challenging.
And these are all due by March, so we can print the book, so it's a good
Right.
time to go over. And then the last sheet from the FERCog, Priority Projects 2025, that's sort of the DLTA sheets that they send out every year. They kind of
Yep.
ask the select board and others what, so they obviously all tie together.
Okay, so let's just take a look at this front page here, the organization-wide ones. And so goal number 1 is to protect the town's overall financial condition in conformity with the town's financial policies. I don't really see that changing. That's like one of our most important things to do. Do you guys have any comments or questions about that? Otherwise, we'll just keep it as is.
I do not.
Okay. Goal number 2 is to support vital town emergency services departments. Obviously, that involves funding and continuing to work to improve or replace aging, outdated facilities for police, fire, and ambulance department, EMS departments. So, I mean, these continue. We've had these for,
Never.
These have at least been 2 years in the book. This will be year 3 of this book.
correct. So I'm assuming, I'm just saying this out loud. It's obvious, right? But goal number 1 stays. Goal number 2 stays, right? Goal number 3, to maintain, this again is organization or townwide, to maintain and support Northfield as an affordable place to live, learn, and do business. This includes continuing to improve and maintain vital infrastructure like sewer and water by encouraging economic development through the maintenance of a single tax rate.
Just did that.
We just did that. And by promoting revenue growth through user taxes for short-term rentals and returning unused properties to taxable status.
Which we haven't done, so we could remove that if you want.
What
You don't have the short-term rental tax.
We tried that last year, it didn't fly.
I voted for it.
I did too.
I did, too. Well, I
Do
think,
we want to keep that on there as a possibility?
I think we need to educate the population that the population's not paying for it. And the business is not paying for it. It's the people coming in and using the facility that's paying for it. And this is something that is done in every town, in every city in the country. When you,
Well, certainly in Franklin County.
Most all.
yes, most of the towns in
Even
Franklin
Guild
County.
does
are
it.
doing Yep.
And it does include Airbnb. If you're
Airbnb.
doing an Airbnb, which there's like a handful of properties in Northfield that are doing that, Airbnb would be charging that tax rate for those stays, short-term stays as well.
And it would also help the people that are doing, the bed and breakfasts that are being, I wouldn't say overly burdened, but they're the ones that are always being inspected and that sort of thing. And they're always the ones that are following the directions, where some of these Airbnbs that are out there
Right.
are not subject to the same conditions, I would say. So,
Is that something under the Board of Health, or
Inspection?
the inspections and things are under the Board of Health, right?
do they do Airbnbs?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think also we need to add meals and beverage, because we already have that, and it's not reflected here, so that might
Okay.
be something I could add so people are aware.
That we already
do
did
have.
We
it.
already do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was,
2 years ago?
oh no, like 4 years ago. Meals and beverage
3?
passed tax.
Okay.
Passed tax passed a while ago.
Okay. Returning unused properties to taxable status. So on that list that we had of like 20 or 26 properties, we just took 6 off the tax rolls that weren't paying any tax and had been on there since the 70s. So those are going into Article 97. Do we want to take a look again? I know, David, you had raised it this past summer after we got out of the Springtown meeting. Do we want to take another bite at the apple, so to speak, at the Springtown meeting with another collection of properties? Do you want me to put it back on the agenda and we can take another look through that spreadsheet?
If we can take a look at the spreadsheet and see if we can't clump a bunch of other properties that are similar, kind of what we just did, just to clean the books up.
Yeah,
We can put those into 97 now, maybe we can get some back onto the tax roll. I just think we
yeah.
might as well try.
I've got a next clump, if you will, or chunk, and that is, I'm wondering about the ridge, those little ridge properties. There's like 5 or 6 of them. No, it won't go?
Well, you don't have clear title to many.
Oh, shoot.
Well, I have several pages of research that our intern did.
Yeah.
So that may be something to disseminate first.
Okay.
And you may see, there's a couple of properties that although they've been under the town as town-owned properties, I mean, and he was digging back into the 20s and we could not find ownership for. And
Yikes.
but most of those are tiny and not of value. So, but there are a few, I think, David, that have some value to neighbors and abutters, that even if they only sold for a little bit of money, points they get out of the town and back on to usable land for someone that might be interested. So that might be the next chunk or group.
Even if it's just a few, just keep chipping away at it.
Yeah.
Right, there's no point in the town sitting on them, they're not
Right.
usable.
We're just cleaning up from the
But
70s,
I can
basically.
send that
Still.
spreadsheet out
Okay.
in the next, when you start to look at that, because it's not just the spreadsheet with all the addresses. He really did a deep dive into
Can
several
you
of
just
the
go ahead and
parcels.
send that out to everyone, and then let's all just
Okay.
take a look. I'll put it back on the agenda. It might not necessarily be December, but
Yeah, we just need to continue to
can you,
nibble away at it.
right, exactly. But if something strikes when you get the spreadsheet, if you're like, oh, I see a clear pattern that I want to go after, then talk to Andrea, and
Okay.
that way we'll be ahead of the discussion when it comes up.
And there's a few, at least a small group of them that I think.
Yeah,
you
I
can-
might actually try and put this back on the agenda like right before Christmas. If it's fairly late, we can take a closer look. Okay, so we're going to leave that in there, and we're going to mention that we do have meals and beverage. The short-term rental, I think we should keep on there and take a closer look, because as the campground and there's something else being developed in town that might make that much more attractive and palatable for people, the more properties that would fall into this category, the better. I think, instead of, I think we've all known and loved our one true bed and breakfast, right? That's a physical landmark in town. And I think that's where we always have gravitated our attention and thinking about. But I'm aware of up on the hill somewhere, up on,
Old Wendell?
not Old Wendell, is it Old Wendell? The old Christian Redemption Academy
Oh,
building.
yes,
Yeah.
it wants to be some type of a bed and breakfast or something, isn't it?
Some
Or
kind of
some
event
kind
space.
of
An
We've
event
got a couple.
space.
An event
So,
space, yeah.
with-
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Right,
Well,
so,
event space would be, yeah,
So
but
there
you're
might
not,
be some
lips,
for-
they're not staying overnight, or are they?
No, I
They
think
would
there's
be
some talk about,
Making it a, oh,
we
okay.
haven't seen any permits yet, so.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Steve.
So let's keep an eye on it,
And
yeah.
somebody brought up the idea if you did do that, and the funds, maybe you could earmark them for some specific things in town to enhance businesses, or to do it that way. So the businesses would see that they would get something back from them, not necessarily everybody. Or it goes to fund some other, I wouldn't say organization, but
You can
to
dedicate-
be
you
used
can
for a purpose.
Oh,
dedicate-
okay.
You can dedicate funds.
Yeah,
Okay.
use it for a purpose that we probably wouldn't do or with taxpayer dollars or something. Well, it's
They are taxpayer dollars.
well, they're tax, no, they're
Well, they're not
they're a
property
tax,
tax.
no,
yeah.
they're a tax on
a
the
tax.
user. It's a
Right.
user tax.
They're short-term,
Yeah.
yeah,
Short
they're,
term. And it's not
option,
necessarily,
they're user
It's not
options.
normally affecting Northfield
it doesn't,
residents
yeah, it doesn't affect the North,
directly, yeah.
well, yeah, I mean,
Right.
Meals and beverage does, but
Okay, all right. Goal number 4, to preserve community spirit and encourage broad cross-section community involvement by and through Northfield's natural assets. So we have developing and supporting local and regional programs, for example, participation in the FERCog Downtown District Coordinator Pilot Program. So that's where this holiday
Passport.
passport is coming from. He put it together and went to all the businesses. Each of the business, I've got 3 stickers so far, and each of the businesses that I talked to said it was really helpful because they got the complete package. It was all designed. They all participated in the design, but the downtown coordinator actually did all the work. And it now, there's a QR code on the back that takes you to the Franklin County website for this, so you can look up Northfield in particular. So this is also in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce and the Franklin County-wide advertising that they do. And then this little tractor down here, there's some discussion by the group of having a winter event, such as like a tractor parade where all the tractors are lit up with different lights. So there's going to be some sort of winter program, which is what the businesses would like, because as you get to February, that's when business drops off. And if we do come up with an annual event like a tractor parade or something, then it attracts everybody to those businesses. And they'll do another promotional campaign during that. So,
but do you want to change this goal in some way?
I want to get through the pilot program. I do have some thoughts that I've shared with you on the pilot program.
But it's not going away yet, so.
It's not going away yet. We're finishing out the year. I think it's a question of how do we incorporate that work into something? And does it need to be this separate position? Should it be incorporated into another position, et cetera? So I'm kind of keeping an eye on that. I've been sitting in on most of those, as have you. This is really just all the different businesses along with recreation. So there's the Recreation Commission is involved in this still, too. Okay, and speaking of that, we're supporting and promoting a sense of community spirit through support of local events and activities, including the formation of an events coordinating committee. That's the Events Coalition. There's a lot of overlap between J and K, to be honest with you. Most of the participants are involved in both, and that includes the Recreation Commission. So I think when we get done with this year is taking a look at how much overlap. It seems like there's a lot to me between J and K and whether or not that's just basically one
And I think they're still meeting and doing some other things.
Yeah.
But I might change the language and set the formation of out of there and put in including support of the events coordinator,
Yeah.
because it already is formed. So
Yep,
change it to supporting it.
yep. Okay, and any comments or, have you guys participated in the Events Coalition at all?
I have not.
Okay.
Last year they did this stuff over Valentine's Day weekend, the snowman.
They were the ones who were doing the events last year, and now we have the downtown coordinator who's actually building on what they did last year and doing all the work for them, which has been nice. And he's got more web and internet savvy, and he's got access to what he's doing with Shelburne and Turner's Falls, so they're figuring out, I think each one is doing a holiday passport, but it's tailored to them. So we're taking advantage of what the other towns are doing too. Okay, encouraging resident participation in townwide planning through public forums and outreach. Well, this sounds like it needs to be a little bit more specific. Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
I think we've been, anytime we've had
Certainly done
something
the
coming
info.
up, we've asked for, people to step up, be on a committee. If they don't step up, they don't step up.
Right. I think when we get onto the new, I think it's somewhere in the details, but for just the select board is we had talked about moving onto the new website. And
Yeah.
I know that's ongoing, and I think once we get onto there,
It's getting
we'll have a
fairly
better,
close.
we'll have a better vehicle. It's a lot of work, but we'll have a better vehicle for actually promoting and getting people to participate. I think the info sessions, that seems like we've definitely got those, thanks to Sarah's original idea. I think we now have a handle on those. That's become part of the town meeting process. And Finance Committee is a lot more involved in actually running those, so.
Is that something to add here? Encouraging resident participation in town-wide planning and town meetings through public forums or something
Yeah,
like that? Because we've
yeah.
added the mailings.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, town meeting attendance through the, and engagement, basically. I think I would use that.
I think those info sessions really help, because a lot of people that, not as many people get up and speak now, because they've gone to these sessions or seen the video of the session.
Yeah, that's true.
And it does
too.
answer a lot of questions.
I have to say for the special, I think there were, if I take out like even Finance Committee, there were a good 40-some people there. 40, 45 people, which is,
The more information we get out about how we run the town, how the finance committee works, how the
Yeah.
select board works, just like tonight, the assessors come in explaining, and
Right.
hopefully people are watching that.
Yeah,
That a lot of these things are dictated by, property values and the state, and we don't dictate. In fact, one of the things I always start off with is we are a recommending group of people. Finance committee recommends.
Yeah.
It comes to the select board. The select board looks it over and decides, yes, that's a good topic, that's a good thing to put on if it happens to be a town meeting. But ultimately, every decision that's made, is made by the taxpayers of the town of Northfield.
well, they're the town meeting is the legislative body.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. So when people get up and speak, they get up and speak to the crowd, because that's what a town meeting is all about.
Yeah. I think the other thing I would add in here is I think there's more cross communication with some of the other committees. Like I've gone to the Board of Health just to sit in support of the family that wants to open the bakery next to the IGA. and trying to help them through that process, even though it's clearly under the Board of Health, and they're doing a great job, and they've been very supportive. But we're trying to use that downtown district coordinator position also to understand what are the challenges that when people are starting up a business, especially post-COVID, what are the challenges that they're going through, and what do we need to do, for example, on our website that makes it clear you not only have to interact with the Board of Health, you might have to interact with other committees. And I think that's where people, what I've heard from the group of businesses is sometimes that gets a little confusing of, is it the select board, is it the planning board, is it the Board of Health? And then feeling like they're kind of going back and forth until they talk to Sandra, and then Sandra kind of sets them straight based on her experience. So I think the cross-functional representation here in goal number 4, we definitely need.
I think it might be a separate goal, but I'll work up.
Yeah,
I'll
okay.
have you review this.
We'll talk about it. We'll
Yep.
come back with this discussion and dress this up and wordsmith it a little bit more. And then the last one here is focusing on and developing Northfield's existing resources, including the town's environmental advantages and unique history, as well as supporting new ideas and activities. I think the RecCom has really been amazing in this area.
We do have an opportunity next
And
year.
open
The
space.
250th is coming up. I know someone that's very into trying to see some of our ancestors and how they,
Oh,
how they interact with the town, or how,
Yeah.
we had,
we've got this cemetery work that's been going on, and I know there's, they want to do some sort of program during the 250th and maybe around Halloween next year,
they're
so,
looking right now into who was around in the Revolutionary War.
yeah.
And how many people were loyalists, how many people were patriots, how many people settled in Northfield, how many people that were of that area are buried here. So I know that is ongoing. I know somebody's working on that.
Yeah, for folks who are watching Ken Burns' latest, it dovetails in really nicely. So
And
many-
if,
yeah,
and if
go
you
ahead.
are watching Ken Burns and anybody went to the brewery a couple of weeks ago,
Oh, did you
could-
go for
oh,
that?
it was perfect because they're
The
talking about
history of beer?
well, breweries in the Northeast, but everything, if you look at it, is kind of linked in the Revolutionary War to alcohol, rum, beer. Where they used to meet in all of the
Taverns?
So
And we had, Northfield had a few taverns.
we did.
Yeah.
it was- one was torn down and rebuilt by this old house
Yeah, where
years
was-
ago.
It was
It's
on Route
on 63,
63,
yeah,
south
exactly.
of where Alice
Alice's
lives.
house was a
Yeah,
tavern.
Yep. And the
Yep.
Beehive was a tavern too.
Yeah. Interesting.
All right, so let's see. On the, we don't have page numbers, but FY25 goal updates. Goal number 1 was public safety. So this is all of the public safety departments. I'm assuming that's a big yes, we're keeping that and just moving. Now that we have a facility location, we can move forward definitely on those steps. And fire is moving forward on their design steps. So we're gonna have to figure out when and how that gets in front of which town meeting or info session. So moving on from there, we can update the measurement pieces of this now that police policies, we should double check with him. I know we did those.
I think they're done.
Yeah, those
We are done,
They
but
said they're presented and voted.
yeah, he'll
He
bring
said
up,
every once in a while he'd
He'll
come
bring
back with
something
us with
back,
an
but-
update or a revision.
yeah. But we're basically done with those. Fire, this is gonna be coming up, guys. The consultant is looking for a meeting with Skip. So I know Skip's been busy with some other stuff, and we've got to get renewed focus on that so that the consultant can come and present both to the fire department and the select board. We'll be talking a little bit more about that, as well as I've got succession planning on here, so we have established fire chief succession. So I think we can take off the police
Yep.
and just indicate when that was done. It was done a couple of years ago, right around this time too. We'll update these. The emergency management director, that's part of the SKIP transition as well. SKIP is both the fire chief and emergency management director. Plus SKIP does inspections. There's quite a few things that SKIP does that we're gonna need to outline. And it's not just under fire chief, it's under emergency management as well. Those are two separate tracks. And we're still tasked with getting our incident management training done. That's something that we've talked about with SKIP more than once. All right, so we'll update those. Any discussion on those? That all makes sense so far?
Yep.
All right,
Well,
I
we've
don't-
done the regionalization of the ambulance,
Yes,
so that's done, yeah.
that was a 2-year IMA process, so
Mhm.
yeah. We're also, just FYI, we're at the point where we had a meeting with GCC and the senator on potentially some training opportunities for new paramedics. So we're actually have new goals associated with EMS. We're just kind of at the beginning talking stages of what we could possibly do. Okay, goal number 2, continue to establish Northfield as an employer of choice. This has been,
We've done this.
yeah,
I mean, not necessarily employer of choice go away. I'm just saying that the classification plan, the wage schedule, and the implementation, I mean, we do annual evaluations, so that's all been implemented
correct,
and updated.
correct.
So we would leave it in, it would become a done,
Is
at least
this,
the measurement.
maybe we should put more of the succession planning activities that we should probably move on to those and talk about those. Once we get through that discussion of, I think that's part of it, is looking at retirement. And we're also talking about employee policies and updating those.
That might be something that goes under the goal section for next year,
Yeah, so,
checking off the other stuff.
yep. Okay, goal number 3 is community outreach, to improve communication with other boards and committees as well as the public, create an outreach strategy.
I mean, some of this you have, continue to invite for, you've instituted more of that. We certainly have town meeting outreach with mailings now.
Yep, as well as the info session, work on encouraging and supporting planning for townwide activities.
New committee.
I think that's really under the events coalition stuff. And again, I'm just gonna stress, this is the year for, and when you move on to the next page, is we're porting
Yep.
and updating the town website. And I think that will give us a whole different way of doing things. Town report and warrants, I think we can take that off. I think we're good on that. I think when we
Yeah.
get to the next warrant though, this is like, I had thought about it and then it was kind of like 20/20 hindsight after the town meeting, is let's take a closer look when we get to the next town meeting of the order of the warrant articles. Like we had the sewer ones grouped together, I think those could have been done sooner in the agenda and kind of gotten those out of the way. Just,
There's also a couple of articles up front that you could do consent articles. You've never done that. But like accepting the town reports, allowing the select board to accept grants, they call them consent articles. So you make one motion, you'll move 2 or 3 articles.
okay,
Because then you have to, you don't.
We did one, I think, last year about that.
No, I don't think we did a
tried to.
consent article, but I mean, I used to do them in every town I worked in, but it was the standard format, ones you vote, accepting the report, letting the select board accept warrant, like things that nobody's gonna vote no, and so you're like, let's group them together as
Yeah.
housekeeping
Okay.
and do a consent article, and it might move 2 or 3 into one motion,
yeah.
so that's a structural change you can do to kind of quicken up those.
Okay, and then the other thing I'd like to do is have the town moderator, have Nate, I talked to Nate about this, is have Nate come before the select board as we're getting close to finishing the warrant, to talk about the warrant and get his live feedback on it and potentially make adjustments before we finalize it. That way he's he's always in the loop because I talk to him, Andrea talks to him, and he looks at the warrant, but I think it'd be nice to have him actually come to a public meeting, and then we can talk about the warrant before we actually finalize.
You want to have the town clerk here, because the moderator's
town
not here, they
yeah.
would have to take over.
Okay,
And
And
what
we
their
did
role
do some
is.
changes, like we moved the education article out of the omnibus, so things there could be some restructuring in the omnibus too.
okay,
There's some things that could be like $1,000 for a certain department that could be in their operating rather than some of those articles, like, I don't know why they were broken out. Like you'll
A
have the
one-time
fire
thing?
department and you'll have 4 or 5 articles, one is hoses. Like, why is that one not just in their expenses? So there's a couple that might just make sense, and they're not huge money, but for some reason they have historically been broken out, and maybe they could go back into operating,
okay.
because they're not huge, you know.
I think the only thing with that is they just didn't want, if it was a one-time deal, not to have it come
No,
back
no,
in.
no, it's the omnibus, so it's the
Okay.
operating
Oh.
budget.
Okay, all right, so we've got some new things that we can focus in on.
Tighten up the omnibus,
Tighten up the omnibus.
where there's little amounts. You know.
We're also potentially going to have more discussion about education in the spring as well, so we need to keep that in mind. Anything else on town meetings or the warrant? We can talk more about it.
I think, I know, if we let people know before the town meeting, just to mention it, that we get it out there that we're gonna try to limit your speeches so they don't come in with a 7-8 minute speech and then it's all of a sudden we vote, it's gonna
Well-
be 3
Well, you
minutes.
have to,
That has to be done at every meeting.
yes.
I know,
that has to be done at
but
every
just let them know that it's probably gonna be, I mean,
Well, I think
I'll
that-
bring it up.
Well, I think,
Anybody- yeah.
I think that the moderator needs to explain that vote. It's
Yeah.
fine that it happens, but when someone stood up and voted and motioned to limit debate, the town voted it with, I think,
Not
there
No
was a
really.
failure
explanation.
to say what this means is no one can speak to any article for more than 3 minutes, no matter how many times you get up. Your time is 3 minutes to speak. 3 times, it's 1 minute each time. But I don't think people quite understood that. So a couple of times they had to cut people off, and I don't think people understood that that actually pertained back to that vote.
Yeah.
And just clarify that. And maybe
Yep.
people are fine with that, but I think people need to understand why all of a sudden Nate was saying, "That's it, 3 minutes, you're up," when he'd never done that at a town meeting before.
Right.
And they
Yeah.
were like, what's happening? So I think that's just something, if you're gonna vote to limit debate, people need to understand that that's
that
what that
means.
means.
Yeah, yeah, and once it's voted in, if they have a 7-minute speech, they need to edit it before they start speaking.
Right, but people didn't know.
Yeah,
They didn't know what it meant when it was voted. So I
Matt
think
didn't
that
know.
was- Yeah, so I
But
just,
the
that should be,
interest-
if that motion is made, it should just
Yeah.
be said, hey, this is what this means, and then vote how you will.
Right, and Matt had worked that out in advance so that it was like 4 minutes, and I think where he stopped was like, because Sarah was timing,
yeah.
Okay,
The moderator's up.
and it was like
That's up to
3
him.
minutes and 36 seconds or something like that, so.
The other thing we might want to consider, if we've got like 30 articles to break in it, we want to discuss the articles beforehand.
Yeah.
To have an informational meeting, maybe 2 nights, half and half, if you want to do, if we had, just so that if people,
Or maybe more topical, like I think we did that, when I look at the postcard, similar to what we're talking about with the town properties, is you kind of clump your warrant articles, right? These are gonna be all account related, right? So it's all gonna be, this account gets established, this one has money moved in and out, et cetera. This one's about, these 3 are about land, these, we could clump
But we
them a little
generally
bit
do
more.
that.
Yeah.
I mean, the
Yeah.
wastewater, it said 10 through 13
Right.
wastewater,
Right,
because putting 14 on a postcard. Now,
right,
when we do the annual, I do a full sheet. So I have way more, because there's way more articles. So that's way more information
Yeah.
with with real numbers. The postcard is just, hey, here's the information session.
right.
Here's the fall town meeting. But the mailing for the annual has actual numbers, and it's clumped because you can't put every article on there.
Right, but I'm just thinking, to your point about the info sessions, is you could, like, this part of the meeting will be focused, and they might be different articles across the warrant, but we're going to focus in on land use or something along those lines for this half an hour.
Yeah.
Even though one's Article 14 and one's Article 5.
We'll try to keep them together.
Yeah,
I
we
think
tried.
I think you could if it, depending on the number of articles.
I think it depends on what your topics are. in
Yeah,
any
if your
given year.
topics, what your topics are, you may want to break it up into 2 meetings.
If you find you have a lot one year, you might find yourself doing that.
Yeah,
Some warrant years are heavier than
Okay.
others.
yeah.
All right, so we'll keep an eye on that as we get closer, and we'll bring in the town clerk and the town moderator. Maybe have Gail come in from a finance committee, standpoint, et cetera. Just have more discussion before we close off the warrant. Okay, and then goal number 4 is on infrastructure. So water and sewer, as well as roads and highway department, continue obviously to be priorities. I think from a sewer standpoint, we've made a tremendous amount of progress, thanks to the sewer chair and Isaac Golding, our superintendent. We're still working on the Grandin Water District now that the waiver situation was clarified with Mass DEP. So that might be coming up this year, this spring, actually, potentially June. I know East Northfield Water Company would really like for it to be as soon as possible, but I think this is gonna take a few months. So,
And we're still down to 2 commissioners on that?
yes, so we're still looking for another
Looking for a
commissioner on
commissioner.
that as
Yeah.
well. We had established a roads working group for, I'm not sure that we still need that. That was when Heath was
Well, I
on.
think the road.
Do we
reason-
need that, or?
The reason originally to do the working group was Old Wendell Road had an article for
Oh,
some
right.
sizable amount of money, which is still out there. Some of the preliminary engineering work was done, but the status of that and actually figuring out where the road should end on both sides and closing the middle has not been completed.
Oh,
And that was something that group was supposed to work on. I think we finally got some engineering report, but that would need to move forward with the understanding that the highway department needs to mark where people are actually using to, and then the middle part in the middle has to be evaluated and it has to be appraised, because if you terminate, but some of the road just got donated further down, so
There's
if you
still work to
terminate a
be done.
working road, there's damages to the people on both sides, because technically they had a road. So that has to go through a process, but the roads group never quite got the engineer started, got some money appropriated, but that was the original idea. And then I think there were also some talk about the ridge, the roads on the ridge. Those were kind of the 2 areas that the roads group was actually supposed to be focused on.
okay, so does it make sense then to be a little bit more specific here, that we want to tackle or finish tackling Old Wendell Road and the Ridge?
Yeah.
I mean, we're pretty good at having Tom come in for highway updates, but I think over the past few years, we've tried to do before he starts paving and before the winter starts, so that anybody who has a particular problem, which this past year, we had 2 different issues that got resolved, and that's also where Sarah has done some work on the side with, as the road, I think we call it the roads planning liaison, because people like to know that somebody from the select board is working with the highway superintendent, but I think we could be a little bit more specific here, unless you guys want to create some sort of subcommittee. Thoughts?
Specificity is always good.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. Sewer commission is definitely at 5, so we're good on that. Okay, select board member training and development. Any thoughts, needs, not addressed? We haven't done any particular training. Most of our training in the past has been like open meeting law, employment law, et cetera.
I think if somebody has a specific area they want to have training in, they maybe make a suggestion and we,
You know what I think? Yeah.
because I don't,
Do you
just
feel the
in
need?
general, I know everything, I don't. No, No, I don't know.
You know everything you
I
need
think
to
this
know.
I know what I
ties
need to
with
know.
the earlier work on emergency management and what's the role of the select board? What is incident management commands and all that?
Ooh.
That's
yeah,
all the
let's-
emergency management stuff. I think that's a piece that the select board really needs.
Yeah.
Well, especially
Well,
with
that ties into
the prior
Right.
one, yeah.
number 1.
I like twofers. Like if you're gonna have two goals, but you do one activity and it actually helps you with two goals, I think that's maybe what we should focus in on is emergency management and incident management here, as well as that would include emergency communication, which has been my bugaboo when,
So then we need to take it off of number 1 and move to number 5.
Well, this is actually fiscal 25's closeout. You haven't even gotten into 26 goals yet. So I'm gonna probably have to
Next
merge
page.
26 and
I
25
think
into
we
your
just-
previous ones, and then you'll have set new goals for 27.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think what we should do is let's
I'll
merge.
edit based on what you did tonight, and then she can edit for her report. I mean, I'll just try to put it.
Just
in
make
the-
sure that there's a note in there that Bernie knows everything.
Bernie knows
Yes.
everything.
Yeah, that'll go in
No,
the
everything he
minutes.
wants to know.
Put that in the minutes.
Yeah,
Put that in
everything
the
he wants to
minutes.
know.
Yeah.
That's
Bernie's
what I-
done.
So yeah, so I'll slide 5 into 6 closeout, and then you.
Let's
Do a
let's
new one.
combine these because, like I said when we started, we have a number of long-term goals that have been on every year. And really what we're doing is updating what specifics we're
Well,
doing
you'll
for
see
this year.
repetition when you hit
Yeah.
26 now, because that's what you did.
Yeah, all right. If it's okay with you, the only thing I can think of for training, because I think this would apply to, especially as the fire chief retires, but also this might be useful from a select board FinCom, and because there's new FinCom folks too, is capital training, long-term planning. We talked about this last night with the school. Bernie Parada and I went to the budget committee with the school committee last night and started talking about long-term planning, and all the towns are feeling a little anxious about this year with health insurance and all of that, and also wanting to see things out over 5 years from the school. And I think that, especially with fire and retirement, it can't just be like, okay, and I know that they do this, they have it in their heads, but it's not really fully on paper and in by the deadline that everybody else is doing it. And so I just want to make sure that we're maybe reinvigorating the capital planning process, so we're all aware of like what's going on and have a town-wide understanding of the next 5 years, not just for building, but also for capital equipment. Does that make sense? That's kind of my,
It just became fiscal year 2027 goals.
yeah, thanks. Okay. So, anything else, guys, or we'll take a stab at consolidating all of this and bringing it back, and then we can do a quick review of did we capture everything
Right,
appropriately?
and B, you can look at the 26 goals section
Yep.
and with the section of accomplishments for 25, because those two will tie together
Yep.
for your report.
And I'll do
as
my
the chair.
report for the,
Well, that's what this is.
yeah, for the book.
Yeah, now, the only other thing on infrastructure, we were talking about the ridge, sewer and possibly connect
Right.
the sewer eventually. You mentioned the roads, maybe that,
All of the above for
All
the
the
ridge as
above.
well, so highway, sewer, water.
yeah,
And then when we start developing down here, we can be talking about sewer for the lower half of the
Yeah.
town,
So
of
hopefully
Main
that's,
Street.
this section for sewer will say that, because this sewer does this piece too.
Yeah,
yeah.
you and I go through it, and
Yep.
there's a lot of overlap, which is fine, but I just want to make sure the objectives are specific enough so that if we're accomplishing them, it's probably tackling two goals at the same time. Okay, health insurance update.
Okay, let me give you some here.
Fasten your seatbelts.
Yeah, okay, so I kind of broke it into the different groups. So, the Hampshire Group Insurance Trust, which is what the town's employees are, the town is a member of. Currently, we're going on the current fiscal status, the claims since the fall, where they had their big spike, since the spring when they had their big spikes, the fall claims have come in more or less as forecasted, so they feel that at least that claim spike is somewhat abated at the moment. Those are obviously the variable costs. People's claims are the variable cost. There's some talk now at looking at fixed cost. We need to start looking at the actual fixed part of operating, and I'll get back to that in a minute. So that breaks down, and then MedX, which is the retiree, which is separate from the active employees. That plan gets renewed and on the calendar year. So fiscal year July 1 is when we see rates change for employee rates, but MedX, which is retirees, which is the supplemental plan. So if you're an employee that goes on Medicare, you can purchase the town's MedX, which is the supplemental plan on top of it. The town pays 50% of that.
And that's calendar year.
That changed in December, it will change January
January.
1. The rates are gonna go up 19%, so it was $416, now it's $495. To some extent that was we expected an increase,
What was the increase last year?
not 19%. I'd have
So-
to look back.
Are they just catching up then? MedX is catching up with what?
Right, because they run on the calendar year
Got
instead
it.
of the fiscal year.
So it's like a delayed response.
Retirees were sent a letter, so they've been notified, and they're looking at changing tiers, introducing tiers for prescriptions, giving a range of pays, co-pays and things to control costs on the MedX portion. So going back to the management piece, so the executive committee for the group insurance trust and then the full committee voted to hire a consultant or a broker, and I think they're going with this group, HILB, after advertising and interviewing. So I think they voted that today, actually, at the
Oh.
meeting.
Okay.
And that group will start work December 1st. And they're looking at the administrative challenges and operational efficiencies for the whole trust itself. And that includes actually the brokers you use to actually bid for your insurance from different entities. People can bid. Blue Cross Blue Shield actually has held the bid, I think, every 3 years, and we may be heading into a bidding year. So that group will work with the group insurance trust on those challenges and moving that. I've also heard that they're looking at expanding plan options. So underneath the Hampshire Group Insurance Trust, there's one set of plans. So if you were a member, there's one HMO, which is the group. There's a PPO, which is if you want to be outside the HMO, that's a more expensive plan. And then we have single, employee plus one, and family. That was it. So if we remember, and you chose the HMO, everybody had the same plan. It had the same, it had the same co-pays. It had the same. There weren't options. There was one set of plans. So now they're starting to look at some plan design, maybe designing with some deductible options to lower premiums. They don't have deductibles right now in our plans, so they're trying to think of other things in plan design. We're not sure if that means they're going to be including these plans, but right now everyone has the same plan in our group, so we're talking about maybe there needs to be some expansion of options.
And when somebody selects a plan, not MedX, folks.
Right, if you're an
it's
active
for
employee.
It's for the fiscal year. It goes into effect
It's for whatever,
whenever you start using
your
it,
employee.
obviously, but
So the
yeah.
minute you're hired, you get a plan, and you have to choose the plan.
Right.
So I'm either single, employee plus one, or family plan.
Right.
And then I have to choose an HMO or a PPO. That's my options. But now they're talking about what would plans look like if we had some additional plans that might make it easier, if you don't need to negotiate them with a union, that adding those might be easier than changing the plan. So there's those plans, they're more expensive, and then there's these other plans that might be cheaper because they now add a deductible, and how that will all work out, how the towns will have options or each employee has options, that's all just now being started. We have a consultant. That's part of the operational and administrative pieces that they're starting to look at.
Do you have a sense of how long that would take? And are they also,
Well, that has to happen rather quickly because they will give health insurance actual numbers in the spring. They will vote
Right.
their numbers by like April.
right,
So they're off to the races.
And they're addressing prescription costs too, right?
There's not much you can do with prescription costs. I mean, you can go to
You
tiers.
can go to more out of pocket. You can tier the cost.
Well, they already do. We already have, like, if it's a generic versus a
Yeah.
a name brand, we already
Are you
have
talking-
different co-pays for
Are you
that.
talking about the GLP-1s that
Well, they eliminated
they
them.
eliminated that?
Okay,
They don't
good.
cover that.
Yeah,
That went in October. They don't limit,
All
they
right.
don't do weight loss drug for anything other than if it's a diabetic prescription.
Okay.
There's also been some talk about health insurance savings accounts. Not sure how those would work. That's just beginning. Usually you manage those through hiring somebody who takes that and manages that, because it's just, towns don't manage their own at this size. Whether those would be helpful to people, probably only helpful if we start talking about employees who choose plans with deductibles. So now they want to put some money away so they can pay deductibles. So anyway, that's all now coming with the trust.
Do they report to us at all when they,
Oh, yeah.
not just the state, they report to the state too?
You mean the Hampshire Group Insurance Trust?
Yeah.
They don't report to the state. The
They don't.
trust is not a part, does not have a state, so we're all members. We all have a voting share based on the
Okay.
number of people in our
Yeah.
plan, which is done every year.
I was wondering how the state was involved, if they were. No,
that's another,
yeah.
Right, we'll get to
program.
GIC in
Yeah.
a minute. So the next one is Maya, which is the Massachusetts Interlocal Insurance Agency. We currently are a member of Maya for property, casualty, and workers' comp. We do not use their health insurance. They are an option. So in the interest of due diligence, we have reached out to them, and Michelle is working on that, because I've been very clear. I sit on the Maya board, but only for property, casualty, and workers' comp, because we don't take their insurance. I do not sit on the health insurance board, but I let Michelle take the lead on exploring that. She's been contacted back to be asked for some information, numbers served and all that. They have to get some data and history from the Group Insurance Trust, and then they do an evaluation to whether or not they will actually take you or can take you. Some groups they take, some groups they said they can't absorb everybody. They can't just physically do it. It just would not work. They will let you know. So we're waiting to hear back from them on if we would even be eligible to join and what that might look like. What kind of plans would that offer? Would that even save us any money? So that's a piece we're also looking at to make sure.
And Michelle's our contact with that group?
Michelle is our representative on the Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust. She also sits on their executive committee.
for the trust.
So.
She's
it-
elected to
probably
the executive committee.
To guarantee that we're all on board, does she report it to you? Or
We
should
talk.
she come in and report to us once in a while?
We talk. I mean, you can certainly ask her, but basically, we attend the meetings are public. Usually our representative is, and almost everybody in the towns, it's their treasurer or HR person, because that's who deals with benefits.
So,
But I can attend the meeting, I have.
Right.
I just watch, it's
So
their
can-
Zoom.
can we just take this up a level, because, just for a moment. So we've got the trust, which has been under close scrutiny for a number, and the executive director is retired
Yes.
already?
I think
or-
so.
Shortly. So there's some disruption there as well. We've got MIIA as a possible option. I know Leiden already heard back that they won't be considered.
Right, and I don't know
Right.
why, they have
So-
their own criteria.
Right, so just keep that in mind. It might be an option, it might not.
Right, that's why we want to weigh it out, see what the choices are,
Okay.
see what the cost is, we don't know. But Maya does allow plan design external from the other towns. So for example, if you joined Maya, you could institute different than another town. Right now, Hampshire Group Insurance Trust, you all get the same plan.
Right,
So Maya has some flexibility in plan design, which we could institute ourselves as a town to make cheaper options. We don't know yet. We thought if we just
Yeah.
started with the basic, here's our current plan, what would it cost us? We'd get a sense of where we are in the ballpark with them, whether it's more expensive or even worth pursuing.
and then, so there's basically three different options.
the
We're
last
we're
one.
currently in the trust, you've got Maya,
And then the last
and
one
then the
is
last one is?
the Group Insurance Commission. That's
Yep.
the GIC. That is the
That's the state
state-run
one.
health insurance plan. We have not focused on them much as an option, and I'll tell you why. So they have some legislatively, some very strict timelines. So if we were interested in joining them, we have to tell them by December 1st. Now, that was just too quick a turnaround for us. We received the letter 1113 announcing now they have a one-time extension. We still have to send our letter of intent by December 1st, but they allow us till January 5th to complete all the statutory requirements to join the GIC. There are some statutory requirements, including possible adoption of some statutory language. So you'd have to have a town meeting. So it doesn't mean that we might never join the GIC. It just means they're not an option today. I think we could look at them, we'll see what happens with trust, what happens with Maya, and we can put them on the burner, we can join them in the future. But it just we can't move fast enough to consider joining them for
Well,
July 1.
We'd have to get all the analysis
Right.
from
It'd be a
all
sprint.
three. And we'd have to absorb it as a select board and a finance
Make a
committee.
decision.
And then hold a town meeting
Not
around,
enough time.
around
Well,
Christmas
possibly
time.
for
Yeah,
GIC if
Yeah.
we would even get there.
right. So
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to make sure that we got to, is like on a high level, there's
Yeah.
3 basic ways that we could go. We're basically constricted from one based on the timing and the amount of
We
information.
could consider them in the future
Yeah.
if we want to,
Yeah.
but right now, we could not make it this year to get those pieces done. It would be I don't even a sprint. I think it would be an impossibility. We would really be running. And that's assuming
I don't
you
think we'd
understand
have
it.
all the
And we don't,
information.
right, and we don't have any say in various things. They completely set the rates. We have no representation. It's run by the state. They have very specific plans. There's really only one out here in Western Massachusetts. There are some options there. Lots of people have done some analysis. They're not a huge cost savings, but they do have some deductibles. So there are some plans that could be less expensive for employer. They have no employee plus one plan. It's single or family.
Huh.
That's a little more expensive for some of your employees that don't have a family. So there would be some analysis that needs to be done on whether or not this would really save the town a lot of money if we're now paying the percentage of a family plan, which is not cheaper than an employee plus one. So
Right.
we just don't have time.
Plus the employees, to add to that, all of the employees would have to understand
Right.
that in changing a plan, whether it would even work for them and how much more money or less money would impact each individual employee who's currently already on a plan.
Right. So there's some,
And what they're getting for their dollars, or what they're paying in.
Right.
What does this insurance allow them to do or not to do, or cost them
right. And
out
so
of their
some
pocket?
options, adding a possible high deductible plan for some of the younger people, that's great because they don't go to the doctor as much. So they might choose that plan. So giving them that option or designing that option might be something we want to add to the plate. It doesn't mean it's the only thing. So we've got some more analysis. It was just too quick to consider GIC.
Yeah.
There's no way we could get there. But this is something you really have to remember. If we change carriers, we are responsible for what they call our tailings. These are the costs of current covered members that are experiencing medical treatments for a significant current issue. For example, if they're undergoing cancer treatment. We keep them for a while, could be a couple years, and pay out of pocket because no new insurer is going to pick that person up. So they'll tell you what your tailings will be. The Hampshire Group Insurance Trust is sitting, as part of our membership agreement, sits on 3 months of a claim deposit. When we joined, we gave them 3 months of a claim deposit. Now, this was a while ago, so we had less people insured, but still. They hold that money for 18 months after we leave, and any tailings come out of that first. So we'd have to pay those tailings. So we wouldn't necessarily see much of anything returned, even if we left and they had, to give money back. I'm not sure we'd see anything. We may, in fact, actually owe money. I have no way of knowing. I do not track, nor do I see, nor can our treasurer, what individual family and people are doing. Just want to let everyone know that we don't look at individual people and what their health insurance needs are. We would get like, you have this amount of
An
tailings.
overview,
We don't
yeah.
see who, we don't see what.
You get the total.
Correct. We're not interested in individuals, so I just want people to know, but that is something we have to consider if we change plans. So, the state did
This
pass
makes it even more difficult.
I know, it gets complicated. The state
It's
was,
complicated and then it gets more complicated the more you talk
Well,
about it.
Insurance is that way anyway. If I
Yeah.
look back at
Right.
my, work experience,
yeah,
it seems like every 2 or 3 years, you you get a new set of plans with covering your less, and then just
Right, and we
gets-
haven't really had that. We've had very good insurance
Yeah,
through the Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust. The problem is now, and it's not on them. This is a systemic problem with health insurance. It's going up everywhere.
Yeah.
They are not the only ones that saw huge double-digit increases, but we had some issues. So the last thing to let you know, the state just passed some legislation, just passed it the other day through part of the end of the year bills, to allow towns to amortize costs of this year's increase over what looks to be 5 years.
Oh,
So this could be helpful in a number of ways.
oh,
That allows the cost of any increase we got, and this year was 39%. If we look like we're going to be negative in health insurance, we could spread that out potentially over multiple years. If we get to the end of the fiscal year, we need to find that we need to add funds to the budget to get through to July 1. We do not look like we're in that position right now. Michelle and I sat down, she was in my office yesterday, and we're going through everything. And I can explain that when we get to budget time why we're there. But the point is, that's allowed. It would also allow the cost of a consultant, although we're not leaning that way at the moment, to be spread over those years. Some of the bigger communities are hiring their own consultant to bring them on board to help them transition. Most important, if we do switch carriers, it would include the cost of the tailings. So they could also be spread out on our recap over 5 years.
okay.
So even if we find out we have tailings and we want to switch, it's not it's not going to kill us.
it's not
In
a big
one
hit,
year.
it's not a hit, big one-time hit.
It's not a
Right.
death sentence to
Yeah.
say, you know what, in the long run, we think we'll save money, let's still do this. So there is that option there.
Okay.
Couple of things to keep in mind. If we leave the trust, we have to give them 90 days notice before July 1st. So we do have a spring deadline if we're going to get out July 1. So Michelle and I are working on this now so that we will know what we're doing in
So
March. Because you
This
got
will
to
be
tell them
on
by
the
April.
agenda again.
So it sounds
Yeah.
like we have to make a decision on whatever's going on by, say, March?
Yeah. National trend for health insurance is up 9.5% to 10%. So people just need to understand that. That's the whole national trend. It seems
Yeah.
low, but the truth is it's not a low number. So we're probably going to need to think about a 10% for next year's budget.
Okay,
So
well,
that's
I
the
I think I was
down and
thinking
dirty.
another 20, so that,
But
yeah.
you know, Michelle and I are spreadsheet crazy. We are analyzing like crazy with numbers and people. So we are
So I
not
think,
letting this go easily. We are
I think
watching
when we get
everything.
ready to do that decision, we should spread it out over a couple of meetings if possible, like one meeting, do the analysis before we have to make the decision, and bring Michelle in. I think that would be a good experience for Michelle.
It's if they'll take us. If they don't,
Right.
then we're with the trust and we
Then
could
we're
do a
stuck.
well, we
Yeah.
could do a discussion about what that means.
Right,
And, yeah,
Yeah, it's 10% kind of, that seems low, but,
Well, we can get more into the details about where we
Yeah.
are with our numbers and why
Yeah.
we don't necessarily. And I can get it. There'll be some more discussion about health insurance and actually some personnel policy stuff that's coming up too.
so
Yeah.
it seems to me right now, as far as doing it, they had increase was to catch up to the adjustment, and it sounds like now it's kind of plateauing out a little bit. Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, they saw some spikes in the claims in the spring that they were not anticipating, and that took out the reserves. And so
Okay.
they had to up the claims, but the spring claims come in after July 1st. It's always running a couple months behind.
Right.
So we hit past the town, so they had to make a couple decisions. They eliminated the GLP-1s, which they thought were a huge part of the spike, and that's hitting everybody. And they had to do that second increase to try and get the reserve back because they have to pay the claims. So that was what happened. And they have estimates. They estimate, but when those two or 3 months spiked, they were outside the estimates. There go the reserves. Now they have to up to get those
So-
reserves back.
So they adjusted up to that point, and now
Right, and
it's
they think the estimates are coming. The things are coming back in line more with the estimates, but we still have to put that reserve back.
So we may be looking at this, I wouldn't panic,
No, I don't think
And
that's.
I'm thinking it was
We
an
don't have
adjustment.
enough information to
Yeah,
panel.
and I think
Yeah.
it looks like an adjustment, but if it's starting to plateau out, yes, insurance is costing more than it should,
Yes.
but if it's across the board, every other insurance company is getting the same, it doesn't make a lot of sense to jump.
Right, and there's a contraction in the market. A lot of these, they call them JPAs, Joint Purchase Agreement. That's what the trust is. It's a joint purchase agreement. We are jointly together in a trust document purchasing health insurance. That's what a JPA is. Many of them are folding because of the national trends. So this is not, ours is in somewhat better shape than some of the others. They've literally had to dissolve. We are not there. We are not in any threat of that at this moment. People don't need to panic that, oh my gosh, what's the town going to do if we have to start paying on the market? We're not saying that's going to happen, but we just feel that it's our due diligence to explore what we have, what's going forward with ours, as well as any other option we have. But there is a consolidation. You'll see that there's a lot of health insurers that are leaving the state. There's a lot have bought each other. I don't even know all the names, but like Tufts and this, they've
Harvard
merged.
Pilgrim and
They've merged.
yeah.
They're all starting to merge.
Health New
because
England, yeah.
It's not like they're necessary. I mean, Blue Cross Blue Shield that we belong to is a nonprofit. They're actually not a for-profit health insurance company. So, and they've had losses. So it's a systemic problem.
Yeah, they eliminated some of their plans.
Yeah. So it's a systemic issue.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
So yes, we'll have to revisit it several times, I'm
Yes,
sure.
but
Yeah.
there's the
This is the foundation, so
piece
at
that's
least,
going to move forward. Yes.
yeah. Okay, thanks for that, and thanks for the work that you and, I know this is a lot. So that kind of leads into the next discussion, and this is more, we don't need a ton of, I'm just looking at the time, we don't need a ton of discussion on this, but this is really to tee up the work that we're going to have to be doing over several meetings. So I lumped it all under employee personnel policy planning, and just noting that this will occur over a few meetings, especially as we're doing budget. So this will bleed into the finance committee information as well, too, right? But the select board is responsible for policies, but we do want to consult with the finance committee whenever possible on when we're making policy changes that have financial implications. And the finance committee has made the determination of the COLA amount or the cost of living adjustment in the FY27 budget. If I remember correctly, that's 2.8%, basically what the Social Security, was that the thinking, was the Social Security Administration?
Their policy has always been to track that
Okay,
up and down.
so the COLA is set at 2.8 then?
2.8
Yeah.
is their
2.8.
recommendation.
yeah.
Okay, great.
So that led to a discussion because, if we combine what we just talked about with health insurance and take a look at not just the impact on the budget, but on individual employees as well, they're getting a 2.8% increase, right? So the COLA isn't like a big, you're getting a 10% increase. So in some ways, the concern is that with their health care insurance going up, as for everyone, that the 2.8 is really, they're still like at a net loss. And so we might want to take a look as we start going through the personnel policies again, is take a look at where we could make some changes for employees that would be maybe low cost for the town, but would make it,
A little bit more pliable or
This is
yeah.
acceptable.
Well, in
your
continuation of
employee-
employer of choice
Yeah.
status or mantra for the town is basically to look at the impact and say, we know we can't give you huge increases every year, but at the same time, we can make some adjustments that make your,
Step or grade.
right, we
Or-
could be looking at salary grid stuff, but we could also just be looking
I
at,
have some ideas. So,
Yeah.
like you said, it's 2.8%. Health insurance went up 39% for the employees this year. So obviously, town's not going to be able to offset even some portion of all of that. So I'll just list them, and then I can give you more information. I'm working on over January, and probably will be bringing you a revised personnel policy. But some of these are the things that might be optional to think about in there. Some of these things to make up for maybe Ideas like a floating holiday, could be the day before or after Christmas. For the most part, it's revenue neutral, maybe except for police, or if highway gets called in for snow. It's a day that give to employees that's not necessarily costing the town anything. Longevity payments, just so you know, the town did vote in April 8th, 2014 to give longevity payments. The select board voted a one-time longevity payment of $750 from year 20 to 25, and then a one-time longevity pay increase from $1,000 from 26 to 30 years. Obviously, that was voted to
What
begin
year was
after
that?
step 10.
2014.
2014.
Oh, 14, okay.
So obviously, the thought process was, so you get to step 10, you don't get any more steps. You're cut off, you're done. Technically, if you start at step 1, that takes 20 years to get to, because you get one every other year. So then you get nothing for the rest of your employment. So they thought, oh, when you hit 20, the next year you get $750 in your salary. Permanently, it boosts you $750 going forward with COLA. After 26 years, you get the $1,000. Obviously, that was voted so those to hit on the 10 steps. Note, today, many of your employees don't start at step 1. It's very hard to start at step 1. That's somebody who really basically comes in on board with no experience, no criteria. We've been fortunate to actually get employees who have experience and a lot of knowledge. You're not going to generally start them at step 1. It's not competitive. So that means something you can think about is if they get to step 10, there's a gap potentially between their step 10 and 20 years of employment. I don't know what that means. Don't know how to explore that. It's just a possibility. Longevity payments are fairly common. The other possibility is to do something like accelerate vacation increases. So instead of waiting 5 years to go to a third week, maybe you go 3 years to the third week. Again, I don't know. That's just another thing to think about. Then there's this whole thing about, and this ties back to the health insurance, paying employees to take spouses' health insurance plans and get off yours. Towns like Montague set an amount of a payment. So in other words, you take your spouse's plan, you get X amount of dollars per year for single or X amount for family. FERCog also does this. They do a percentage base. So you get 25% to leave it, and then it increases over time. There's rules and policies under all of these. I'm not going into any of that. Another town has an opt-out payment, but they discontinued it. But now they're thinking about bringing it back, and they're also looking at considering a percentage base. So those are essentially the two. The problem with some of those to consider is, obviously this is not just a one-time payment. You would be doing it annually, which is fine. Does the employee need to be on the town's insurance and then leave it to get it? So, for example, we have employees who are already not taking your health insurance. We would have to start paying them immediately, or it wouldn't be fair, right? So why would they then not opt onto our plan for a year and then opt off, and then they're back and get it? There's
So
just
you
things
just have
to
to be-
think about.
You just have to be careful of unintended
Correct.
consequences.
Because we have a number
yeah.
of people who aren't doing it. It could be that less people opt out, and we're now paying more to the people who already didn't opt in. So we'd have to weigh very closely whether this would actually save us any money. Where it would save us the most money is we do budget some additional money for people who aren't on our plan, because we never know whether we're going to have a new hire or someone's going to have a life-changing event and want on our plan. We could cut that number down because we assume that it says we're paying some people and they've opted off. We might need less of that safety net. So that's something that Michelle and I discussed. We kind of looked at numbers, but there would be some tweaks going on about, do they have to be off for a whole year to qualify, or can you do prorated? Do they have to get paid in June? There's a lot of thoughts to that. So, but those are the kinds of things that we're thinking about that could change in the personnel policy, rather than just saying sorry, suck it up, 39%.
So, great info. We don't need to make any
Nope.
decisions, thank goodness. But just what I'm trying to do with some of these more complicated things is just spend a meeting where we're kind of priming the pump to start thinking about it. So when we do have to make a decision, we'll have had a chance more than once to actually think through it instead of like get to a meeting and then make a, employee-wide decision that has consequences we haven't thought through. So that's the list, and then we're just gonna stay up to date on the health insurance, obviously, but given your, with MMA, the Mass Municipal Association, to which we all belong, by the way, and Maya, and your small town administrators list, there's plenty of discussion going on. There's plenty of discussion going on with FERCog that we can bring back into this discussion as we move
I'm
forward.
fortunate that I get to hear this right on the edge because I sit on the Mass Municipal MMA Executive Committee.
Oh, right.
So
I
I'm on the
forgot about
MMA
that.
board. I'm on the MMMA board, which is the Managers Association, and the Local Government Advisory Council with the Lieutenant Governor, and the Maya board. So when these things come up, I'm hearing them right quick. So
With
it's
3 different venues. And then I'm sitting on the executive committee, plus
For
the
the FERCog,
finance
yeah.
committee for the FERCog and the council. So I'm hearing it from like a Franklin County-wide perspective, and we can just bring that all back.
Yep.
Okay, retirement succession planning. Yes, we are going to be doing that. We're going to start with, since there might be some budget impact, is we're going to start with the fire chief description. So we're going to, we had talked about, we're going to go through the job descriptions and pull the ones out. And so we'll be going through those over the next few meetings as well. Kind of leading up to that, we're going to have some big decisions, I think, somewhere in the March timeframe, both on health insurance as well as whomever is retiring. How does that look as it perpetuates through the budget? If there's any other priorities that come out of this fire organizational review that's been going on, et cetera. So.
I mean, the process is we start with the job description, we start with the tasks.
Right.
The select board would review, obviously, any changes to any job description. We then look, does it need to be reclassified? Have you
Oh,
changed
right, I
the
forgot
job
about
enough
that.
to
Yeah.
reclassify it? Maybe not. Then you advertise, hire, interview, and hire. This can take 3 or 4 months just to go through the advertise, interview, and hire process. So, and if we want to overlap with a new person who's starting, with a person who's leaving, that, you want to account for a week or 2 of time there. So there's a real timing thing. And as retirement possibly looms for any number of employees, or obviously like the fire chief, that process needs to start sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
We'll be
So
looking at that.
I just want to note, without getting into details, that, how do I put this? I think different people have emailed, both citizens and other folks have emailed at different points about questions about certain personnel policies, especially when it applies to new hires. That's going to be part of this review process as well, just
Okay.
FYI. So as we're going through the personnel policies, without getting into the details, because Andrea, and if an employee has a particular concern, let's say, that's not something we're going to discuss in a public session meeting. But if there's a question about how a policy is worded, how it's applied, where the confusion might have been, maybe the policy's fine, but somehow there's confusion about how the policy was used, or how it applies to some other employee that they thought they knew what was going on with that other employee. We're not going to get into those specifics in a public session, but we are going to take a look at the policies and take a close, and that's what Andrea's going to start by reviewing them. And we've made some notes, and we've also talked with Michelle and made some notes about
Right, there's some-
where are people if they are getting confused, a department head or an individual employee. That is going to be addressed as part of this process too. It's not just retirement succession planning.
No.
It's making sure that the personnel policies, as they've been put together over the years, are crystal clear to everybody, including the select board. And then if we need to make changes to the policy, could be a wording thing, or because we want to do some sort of incentive thing based on some of the things that were just discussed, then the select board will review an individual policy, make the adjustments, and then vote on whether or not we're changing
Right,
that
some
policy.
of it may just be, I've collected them
Editing.
up over time. Well, there's a change in practice. So you may have had policies that are on the books that have slowly wandered from what we're actually doing. Not right or wrong, it's just we need to go back and review and make sure that
Well, like that longevity one, the way it was worded.
it never even made it into the personnel policy. They voted it and nobody put it in the book, so.
Right.
It's now in there, but I'll put it in there for you to look at, but you may want to change it. But it needs to be added so you can see that it was actually voted by a select board.
Yeah,
to
the way
add.
that it was worded,
It was confusing.
I wasn't sure if it was like a one-time thing or it was like you get the $750 every year once you hit a certain, those kinds of things. So I just wanted to make that clear based on, I hope that helps without going into details about,
Yeah.
that would reveal a certain.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have about 15 minutes or so. Wanted to move on. Is that pretty much explain everything?
Right, so that's gonna be kind of my January goal, so I'm hoping by the end of January.
Well, and that's what, when I come in every other week, that's what we're kind of going through, is like how to schedule this and how to bring things forth to the select board. So we're not doing it like, I don't know about you, but I don't want major policies like all in one meeting and I haven't had a chance to really digest it. Especially health insurance. No, I don't think anybody, this has been the discussion in every meeting I've gone to. People are like, I know more now about health insurance than I ever wanted to. So that's going to continue to be the case. I did want to take some time, I put this down as regional school district building projects. So I wanted to let the select board know and also the public know, as a result. The superintendent from the Franklin County Technical School will be here for our December 9th meeting. And he's going to talk about, he's going to each of the towns, and he's going to be talking about their capital planning and their huge project. It's been in the recorder, for example, and start to give us a possible sense of what the impact is going to be of this major capital project for a new building. There's 19 towns in the school district for the tech school, so the cost will be spread out over 19 towns, but it's still significant because it's a big building. And
Yeah, it's a big project.
Are they in, do you know which part of the process with the Massachusetts School Building Authority they are? Are they in feasibility or they're beyond that in the design?
I don't know. I
Okay.
don't think they're.
We'll find it out when
He's
he
gonna
comes.
explain.
Yeah, he's gonna come and,
So I think we've got Finance Committee coming for a joint meeting as well. So Finance will be here on
I've
December 9th.
notified them. I told her she
Yep.
should probably post it. So
Yep.
that finance committee members can.
Now, in addition to that, I included, because they just came through recently from the Leiden Select Board and the Bernardston Select Board, and I'm not sure that you all know this or how many people know it, but the Pioneer Valley Regional School District is also engaged with the Massachusetts School Business Authority,
Building authority.
Building Authority.
MSBA.
Did I say business? Building Authority, sorry. That's an acronym, salad. I sat in on the MSBA meeting last week, as did Bernardston and Leiden. And we listened to really what the authority was telling us was they had done a review of enrollment trends for PVRS. And as part of that, we were talking about certainly the thing that I've said to PVRS and in the various budget hearings that I've been to over the last few years is Northfield in particular. You know, we can talk about Leiden and Bernardston as they've laid it out in their letters, but Northfield in particular has the need for a sewer plant, has the need for a new fire building, has the need for a new EMS building, and then we're going to have to include police in that as well. So when we talk about buildings, Northfield has a lot to look forward to and a lot to be concerned about in terms of the amount of money. And it's going to take a lot for the select board and the finance committee to explain how this will work over time. That's why I want us to spend some time on capital planning, because in addition to that, we'll need a new fire truck, we'll need new highway trucks, we'll still have the regular replacement of ambulances and police vehicles. So we don't want to have one of those years where it all lands on the same year, and then the concern about taxes with valuations going up will be even more strongly felt because we'll have additional large expenses. So one of those large expenses will be the Franklin County Tech project. So he's going to talk about that at the next meeting. But what you might not be aware of is that PVRS is also, and the school committee voted to support this, to have a feasibility study, and they're in the feasibility portion of the MSBA process, to have a new facility where PVRS, the high school, is now. And then the plan is to close, or the suggestion is to close the Northfield Elementary School and close the Bernardston Elementary School and move those elementary school populations along with high school and middle school into a brand new building. Now, the challenge with that, which Leiden and Bernardston have put in letters to the Massachusetts School Building Authority, the challenge with that is this really falls on the three towns. No matter how many different towns you have utilizing PVRS, they're not part of the district necessarily, so they're not on the hook for things like big capital projects. And that's why I want this year to be the focus on really understanding capital planning and capital projects. So Leiden and Bernardston have both sent letters saying that they don't support the new building, and they don't support the use of $800,000 to $1 million in school choice money on even doing the feasibility study for a building project. Now, MSBA, in the meeting that I was in, said, which they should because they're talking about feasibility, is that when I explained all of the things that were going on just for Northfield alone, they said, well, that's why you go through the feasibility study, so you can understand how much it would cost and what would need to be funded. And I was like, I've seen this movie before, which was we spent close to $1 million to design the complex for 3, and then it wasn't approved by a 2/3 majority. And people were upset about spending money to get
Nothing.
well,
We get something out
we
of
got
it, but yes.
we got
but-
design, and we got a sense of we're reusing portions of that for sure. But to spend 2 years and a fair amount of money when we know sometimes the appetite for doing large projects just isn't there, that's not something I really want to repeat. And that's what I've been saying on a yearly basis when I sit in on the budget hearings, is I just don't understand how a $100 million building, even if it was funded at 50 to 60% by the MSBA, I can't see the 3 towns, particularly when you think about the size of Leiden.
They were talking more like they'd be lucky if they got 40%.
Right.
The project was gonna be around 60 million for the 3 towns.
Right, potentially. So we don't know what that is, and we wouldn't know until we complete the feasibility study, but it's high enough that the other towns have expressed their concern in a formal letter. And I mentioned that last night at the kickoff budget meeting. I said, and their next one is December 9th, by the way, which is when we're meeting as a select board, so Bernie will be there, but if somebody else from the finance committee wants to go, that might, I said, you need to bring up the 800-pound gorilla, which is the $800 to $1 million in the budget that you would be using toward the feasibility study. Anyway, so I'm just going to put that out there. You've seen the 2 letters, questions, comments, direction that you would like for me to follow or follow up on.
So are you asking us, do we want to also send a letter?
I think that's something that we need to discuss. Personally, I don't feel I'm also thinking about the recent 6-town and 3-town discussions that we've been having and how different committees take different votes when it's not in their lane. So for example, the 2 school committees, one for PVRS and one for Warwick, voting on their support for 6-town when it's actually a voter thing. So I'm a little conscious of that in this instant here. I'm going to continue to express all the things that I just expressed to PVRS. I've already been doing it, but I just want to take it before you guys, and how strongly do you feel about doing a letter?
Because of what is on our table,
Yeah,
we could be looking at anywhere around 25 to 30 million dollars just so that we can have fire, police, ambulance, sewer.
Yeah.
So we're looking at, some pretty hefty bills. The other thing is the current school that's there was designed to hold 700 students.
right, because you were on the original
I was on the
building.
original, I was the chairman of the building committee,
What year was that?
late 90s.
Okay.
So when it was built, we looked at the possibility of, if we have an increase in population. That is not happening. We are seeing a decrease in population that's never going to go back up because parents are having kids later in life, and they're reducing the size of their families. So you're seeing maybe 1 or 2 kids that are going to be born per household in Northfield.
Yeah,
Our town is not a young town. We have more of our population is over the age of 50, probably approaching 60. So we have a aging population that is already thinks that they're taxed to the limit to put what I call a frivolous $40 million to $60 million bill that is not necessary. And one of the other things they are relying on, they were trying to, and they do have kids with tuition in from Vermont, that goes away. In the next 2 years, the state of Vermont is always working towards that to not, I wouldn't say allow, because you can still tuition kids if you want to pay for it out of your pocket. But the state of Vermont will not pay for people to go to a school in, say, Massachusetts.
yeah.
The families could do that.
Well,
I just think it is a wish. It's not a want. It's not a need. It's a wish that they could have a new school. I just don't think it's in the budget. It is just coming at a time
Yeah.
when we have too much on our plate to even think that way, and the fact that the population is dwindling in our area, in our 3 towns, I agree 100% with the other 2 towns. Because, we've been on the committee, getting together with the 3 towns, going over this for several years, 8 years we've been talking about redoing different things and talking to the school committee. I don't think they look at the towns and see how the towns are really affected by what the cost would be to do this. It would probably, look at it, it would triple I think it would, you're talking over $20 per thousand for each and every household in the town of Northfield.
well, 2 things. I just want to say that when we went to the budget committee meeting, subcommittee meeting last night at PVRS, they did address the Vermont. There's quite a bit of discussion about that, and I think things will, if it does take effect and it does have the effect that you mentioned, then it would be in 28, 29, somewhere in there.
Yep.
But there's quite a bit of discussion as to some of these towns that are like Vernon, right on the state line. And there might be some pushback on that. So while it's a concern, they're also keeping a close eye on what's happening with that. I just want to point that out just for the record. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. The second thing is, just from, if no one remembers anything from a discussion about capital, the more you spread your costs over multiple towns, the cheaper it is.
Yeah, we only have 3
Right.
towns.
And when we get a bill, like I think we'll have a better sense of perspective when we talk to Franklin County Tech, because he's going to come in with a huge bill, and then he's going to talk about what the percentage is
assessment,
that they
yeah.
think they're getting from the MSBA. And then he's also going to talk about what he thinks the impact and what the formula is going to be for determining the impact on 19 towns. And then we're going to get like an estimate, and we're going to be, knock our socks off type estimate for one of 19 towns.
Sure.
So I think that's when we're talking about 6 towns or 3 towns or some sort of variation, I think people do need to understand that your big capital expenses as well as your retirement, right? All your retirement for teachers who are retiring, their health care and all of that is still a burden on all of those towns, and rightly so, because those teachers have put in their time. That's part of what the 3 towns are paying as well.
Oh, yeah.
So having Warwick leave, right, we had 4, having Warwick leave took away that 4th town, and now we have 3, and Leiden is, as they call themselves, a tiny town. They have even fewer residents, and they have fewer students, and I think they have all of like 2 or 3 kids in the high school. So some of the discussion has to be around, and MSBA mentioned this in the meeting, is they don't see the enrollment going up in the high school, that's for sure. Elementary school seems, the K through 8 kind of still seems relatively stable, although even this year Northfield Elementary experienced losing 17 or 18 kids out of the elementary school, having them go to places like Warwick and Irving. So I just wanted to put that out there. And if we want to do a letter, I'd be happy to do a letter. I'm not sure I necessarily...
I just don't see the justification of building a brand-new school. We here in Northfield have put in probably close to $1 million into our elementary building.
Since I've been here in 2019, it's about 800,000.
Okay. So we do invest in our own property as far as doing that, and we try to
Right.
make it as up-to-date as possible. I just do not see a need to build a school where we have a dwindling population, with the fact, if they really wanted to look at it, they could actually house the elementary school. You'd have to portion it off, but you could actually have them
Yeah.
in that one building.
Yeah,
So why
there's
haven't they, I
capacity.
mean, to me, that would make more sense, if indeed, but then that leaves us with our elementary school. I mean, we could develop it into some kind of housing, I guess, as far as doing that, but that would be on our dime. So that's another cost that people don't understand. You have this, then you have the other cost related to when you close down a school. So it's not just one little
It's
issue here.
complicated,
It is,
yeah.
and then you throw into the mix the police, the fire, and sewer.
Yeah, water, yeah.
And I don't think we would be doing the justice to the taxpayers of the town by supporting that at this point in time. If for some reason we had a windfall of $1 trillion or $1 billion come in and somebody wanted to give it up, we're not going to get a lot of money in the town of Northfield. We're a bedroom community for the most part.
Yeah,
And we do pay the lion's share, even of the 3 towns. All 3 towns pay over 50% of what their budget goes to the school.
yeah,
We are the bigger town. We pay our
about
biggest
half.
budget. We pay more than half.
More than half.
More than half our budget goes to the town, goes to the school.
yeah. And that
the
percentage is going to go up with these capital projects.
True,
so-
and the thing that when you're in the finance committee and people come in and say our taxes are too high and they blame the finance committee, they don't look at the biggest chunk is the school. And I think education is very, very important. It is probably one of the best things that we have going for us,
Yeah.
but you have to be realistic about what you can and cannot do, and how much you can tax the members of the town. That would reach a tipping point in our town, and I think that you would see the town of Northfield going under because they couldn't afford the taxes.
Anyway,
I would say this, when I saw the letters from Leiden and Bernardston
Yeah.
opposing this for all the reasons they've noted there, and they did a good job defining them.
Yep,
I I'm disappointed Northfield's not in there with them,
Okay.
saying,
And I support those letters too. I just
We-
thought I'd mention
I
that.
believe
Yep.
we should support them in saying, no, it's a waste of a dime, much less $1 million,
Okay.
to discuss the feasibility of a school that
Do you
we
want
can't
me,
afford.
do you want me to craft a letter then? And the only change that I would make would be to address it to the school committee, because the school committee made the decision.
Well, and send a
And then
CC.
CC
Yeah.
the MSBA. But to me, this is a communication between the two committees that, we've looked at these and we have the same concerns as the two other towns. And this is also why we want to make sure it gets out in front of voters at some point, right? That's why the sixth town, people, when I look at some of those signs about hands off our schools, I'm like, okay, we might not like this particular example, but the fact of the matter is, the more towns you have on a school district or in a school district like Franklin County Tech, the more those costs get spread out over more and more towns, right? So we need to be looking at other options, I think, as opposed to just kind of carving out our little niche here in this portion of Franklin County. The other discussion that we've had has been that there are 9 school districts correct me if I'm wrong, 9 school districts in Franklin County? There's 9 different superintendents in Franklin County. Franklin County is the poorest county in the state, and I think it covers a few thousand students. I can't remember the exact number, so I don't want to quote anything.
Yeah, you go east and you have superintendents who have as many students as the entirety of Franklin County.
Right, so we have this structure in place, and I think the state processes, these state structures, the building authority is one and DESE is another, force us into these year-long, 2-year, 3-year-long processes for district agreements and for buildings when we're not addressing the root issue, which is we have a group of districts within Franklin County that have a very small number of kids in high school because you have the tech school. It's almost as if you could have 1 or 2 high schools alone in Franklin County, never mind having 9 of them or whatever the number is, right? And nobody's addressing that root issue. That's where my frustration is. We end up like going through these processes, spending money to go through these processes, and people can then just vote them down, right? I don't want to be in the 6th town. I think they're going to close our schools. Well, did you realize PVRS was actually studying that and wants to move those buildings?
This proposal would close the elementary schools.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Both
But
of
that's
them,
what,
yeah.
it was getting confused with 6th town, and it's really a proposal on the PVRS side, and nothing about 6th town has said that they would close a school. So I think that's where it gets muddled for taxpayers and voters, and really, if we could all just be taking a leadership role on moving this all forward, that would be great. That
So,
said, if you
yes.
want me to do the letter,
Yes,
I will
please.
do the letter, and I would just say, let's send it to the school committee to express that, and then copy MSBA.
Absolutely.
And copy the
That's-
other
yeah,
select
yeah.
boards. Okay, all
Yeah.
right. That clock is, I'm just
That clock's
realized,
wrong.
now it's totally
No,
wrong.
it's not right, it stopped.
It's dying.
It's mine
It's
did
dying
downstairs too, so
because
it
I've been
must be
looking
something.
at a
It's
quarter-
8:20.
It's 8:20.
Yeah,
It's
sorry.
8:20.
Okay, so we are,
Like I said, I did the floor today.
okay.
You broke it.
All right,
Broke the-
citizen concerns, we have nothing else. I mentioned the holiday passport, so get out and get shopping.
Yeah. you're there.
Citizens' concerns? Okay.
You
Okay,
good? You heard enough, right?
any recognition for service?
Thanks to the election workers who worked for the fall town meeting.
This is true. And the only thing I would like to
Yes.
see happen is the recognition of the people that donated their house after it burned down. Something that we should send to these people from the town of Northfield, from the select board of the town of Northfield
Oh,
to these
nice.
people.
Okay.
Once we complete that,
Yes.
Can we just take
Good
a
idea.
motion on the letter, doing a letter, a similar letter? Can we just do a motion on that before we close out?
Okay, I propose that we send a letter to the school committee for PVRS showing our concerns with their proposed, what was it?
Building project.
Building project.
And the impact on the
And the
current
impact
budget.
on, yeah, and the impact
Yeah.
on
And copy to
the
state.
community.
And copy,
Copy to state.
and the other select boards.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all those in, any discussion?
Dan-
All those in favor?
Dan
Aye.
Campbell says
Aye.
yes, yes,
Aye.
unanimous.
Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, I'll do that. And then can we do a motion to officially do a letter of thank you to the family?
I-
Do you want to hold off until we get
I
further?
do, and I would also like to maybe do more than just a letter, so let me
Yes.
think on it.
Yes.
Okay, we'll
I-
put that
Yes.
back on the agenda.
Love to
Okay.
think of
Okay.
something.
Okay,
A
good.
little more.
All right,
Pizza party.
Piece
I
of
was
art.
thinking of a photo with the ambulances and EMS people saying thank you, because it's gonna be their new home, something like that.
Oh,
With pizza.
With
With
pizza.
pizza.
In recognition of, yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks, guys, that was
That's a
a
good idea.
great discussion. We covered a lot, more to come. And motion to adjourn.
We gonna set it next week, or we have a,
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on the motion,
no.
or hold your.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Do you want us
guys.
to check on our next meeting?
It's only 10 to 8, we still have time.
It's right.
We'll just be